Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Maggie Kimberl, content editor of American Whiskey magazine. So if you missed part 1, go ahead, belly up to that bar, and give it a listen first. We promise to save a seat right here for you. Right, Gina?
Yeah.
All right. So Maggie, in part 1, you talked a lot about what kind of got you started in the whiskey world, and then we went off on these amazing tangents. So again, if you missed it, go back. We got into some legal issues, and we got into some ballroom fights. No, that's not true. That'd be a barroom, not a ballroom fight. I don't know. What am I? I'm talking craziness.
I want to go to a ballroom fight now.
Your foxtrot is just very appalling to me.
How can we make this ballroom fight happen?
It seems like it'd be a bunch of bitch slaps.
Yeah. I would have a fan. I'd be like, ching to your face.
With a glove.
With a glove.
Yeah.
You stepped on my foot one too many times, Gina.
In my ballroom, it's Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, so I would have a big feather boa and slap you right across your face.
Hey, those folks could party, though.
Oh, they could.
Yes.
And they drank a lot of whiskey.
A lot of champagne, too. Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of whiskey and
Yeah.
champagne. My favorite my favorite combination.
Where are we going in this episode? We're completely off the rails.
That's
we just
what I
started
do.
part
I send
2.
people off the rails. That is like my specialty in life.
I think our listeners expect no more. But what I'd really love, and I know, Gina, you're going to have a lot to say about this, and, Maggie, you did all these things. You actually carved out 2 careers. You had 2 careers going simultaneously.
Yes.
With small children.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? I know you guys have so much to share, and there's so many moms that listen, and, where women are set to hit some standards or expect to hit standards that are ridiculous. But let's talk about how you manage that. How the hell did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, women are expected to work like we don't have children and raise children like we don't have jobs. And, it's really hard. And I think a lot of, my coping mechanism is being like, yeah, fuck that. So I don't care about those social norms. And so one of the things that really made this workable for me was that I had a job that was really flexible. They were big into work-life balance, and, just every time it came time for me to level up, I would be like, okay, but you get me for 30 hours a week, and unlimited unpaid time off, and so I can go do the other stuff. And they were like, yeah, cool. I mean, as long as I showed up and I got my job done, they were fully in support of that. And so I would not have been able to make that work without that flexibility. And so that's a really big thing, because I think a lot of people think, you're only successful if you sit in a chair for 40 hours a week. And I just have literally never been able to sit in a chair for 40 hours a week. And so, I had to kind of blaze my own trail and make something that was going to work for me and for my family, where I could still go chaperone the field trip and, go to this whiskey festival for a few days. Those were all things that were really important for me for, my well-being and my work-life balance. And so, this was when I worked at Now Sourcing. It was an infographic design agency. I worked there for 7 years. I was the director of promotions. Started off as an intern in my 30s because, when I was in college, paid internships were not a thing. And so that was just not, I couldn't go work for free for somebody. So that, that in itself set my career back. But then when it was time for me to okay, I have to go start a career now, I started, writing about whiskey, and then also at the same time as an intern at an infographic design agency. And so, I kind of built those things simultaneously side by side, and they really, the skill set really has helped me to get to where I am now, because I definitely understand the side of marketing myself and marketing my work. But also, I have those really strong communication skills. So, that was a really big thing. But it would not have been at all possible without all that flexibility. And so I think that that's really something that I encourage women to do. Don't settle for what society tells you is success, or society tells you is, the way to be employed. Don't say I have to do 40 hours a week, so I have to put my kids in daycare so I can work 40 hours a week, but I pay more for daycare than I make working, and so how does that even work? I challenge the status quo, I think is really the big message here. I think that the 40-hour work week is going to go away soon. And, with all the work from home and all that kind of stuff now, I think that we're getting more, people are getting more flexibility so that more people can be part of the workforce. And as more people who have been traditionally shut out of the workforce are able to join the workforce in a non-traditional manner, that's going to strengthen everybody, because it's so important to have diversity, and I think people think about diversity as, like hiring more this people or whatever, but I think it's also in flexibility and meeting people where they are. There are just a lot of different ways to incorporate different types of people into a workforce that's going to strengthen that end product.
Yeah, I think there's certain industries that absolutely could take note of that. Certain things, obviously hospitality, that's a harder one. But and even like securities, that's a hard one. Anything that has to do with government, obviously, that's where I'm gonna lean to because that's where Dave is, my husband. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think if work-life balance is hard to achieve, and, I mean, you know better than I do with having kids.
Do you see the new, so there's a lot of government jobs that are available right now? Mm-hmm. Do you see the new commercials on the TV? I'm sure it's everywhere. It's national. It's about the benefits that the government gives.
Oh.
And it's playing everywhere. And people are like, I didn't know that you get blah, blah, blah when you have a government job. And I'm like, I was like, how do you not know that? Like, I forget what the plan's called. It's called the GH, what is it called? Whatever it is.
I haven't seen it. But.
Well, it's on because right now, everybody's trying to get people to go back to work. All these empty buildings and people are just like, I'll just stay home.
Well, honestly, I was just at the Pentagon for a visit. My mother-in-law was here, friends who work at the Pentagon got us in. We had a private tour. And it was fun. It was kind of cool. But it was really interesting is that they were talking about how few people they have and how many jobs are open for the government because they are competing with places that, obviously, if you work at the Pentagon, you have to go into the Pentagon most of the time because you have to be behind certain closed doors, if you will. There's security issues there. But even they are learning new ways of working, but they're also fighting with the other companies. They're finding ways for people to have a career, to your point, being more flexible and just, the government's never known to be, to pivot quickly.
I think this is an attempt at it because the commercial is literally a woman at a desk and her kids are here and she's clearly on a call, whatever. Yeah. And then she's taking her kids and her husband. I want to say they were going to the dentist.
Yeah.
And they went to so it's implying you get dental. And that's a big fucking deal. Because let me tell you, somebody that has had all kinds of dental work done that nothing is covered by dental. So when you have full dental, that's whoa. And you have more than one kid, it's well, maybe that's a way to get you to go to work.
I've got 3 people in braces right now.
Wow.
So that stacks up.
So you're screwed.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think reimagining the workplace is definitely what's going to have to happen. We were just talking about this strategically about where do you put your next bar and restaurant? Are you going to do it downtown when all the buildings are empty?
Nope.
Or are you going
You're
to
going
the
out to the
burbs?
suburbs. Yeah. I mean, that's where, the biggest whiskey bar that's opened in Louisville in many, many years is out, way out in the suburbs. I was just there on Saturday night. It's Watch Hill proper. Here in Louisville.
Oh, what a great name.
Yeah, it is a great name. And it's a great spot. The people who own it are really nice folks. And they really just wanted to have, they wanted a Jack Rose style. And so it's floor to ceiling with the ladder that moves. And so we got there. We were waiting to pick up our youngest son from a pool party. And I sat down at the bar and my husband's order something from a high shelf. And I'm I'm not going to do that. And I flipped through the menu and I ended up doing it anyway, and so she had to climb up and dig through the bins, and I was I'm sorry, I should have just been I'll take one of those, but But it's a really cool place, and it is literally like out in the middle of what used to be a cornfield when I was growing up.
Wow.
It's happening.
That is, I didn't think about that. I mean, I'm sure, I guess also living in a neighborhood that is walkable and, many bars and
But
restaurants.
you're technically not in a city either. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
Alexandria is a city, but it's not, I mean, yes, it is. It is a city. It's just not that big. It's like Frederick. It's not that big.
No, it's
You just
not.
happen to be right here.
No, but that's what I'm saying is I didn't think about the fact that obviously where you open your next, I mean, obviously there's a lot of thought of where you pick your locations, but now after the pandemic and as the world is changing and the workforce is changing, obviously that would be, you saying it made me go, oh, of course.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like in DC, it's like you can do a whole line, and everyone lives now in the outskirts of DC, still in DC, outskirts of DC,
On the edge,
very
yeah.
neighborhood focused.
Yep.
This is my neighborhood, this is where I am. And like, you can buy a condo right now in DC for like,
A lot less than you could before.
like $200,000 less than you could before.
Wow.
Because nobody wants to live in a building.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, then you have people like me, it's like, they're not going to tear down that building, so you might as well buy the piece of property and hold it. Anyway.
And the one good thing we know is that all is in flux. We have no idea. I mean, if anything, the pandemic taught us that we know nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
You have no idea what's coming next. You know what I mean? Like, not in a bad way, but even in a good way. As much as we start saying, oh, we think it's going to be this, it could really reverse in a year and all the office buildings could be filled again.
Forgive me,
don't know.
Maggie. You might have said, I don't know if you said this in part 1 or part 2 of the episode, but you did say that prohibition had to happen. I think that, like, I'm not saying the pandemic had to happen, but everything that's been, uprising, and like bringing things to like the surface is because it's been brewing for so long.
Absolutely. Yep.
How long can you live like this? How long can we have just people just be blind to like what's happening? And I have to say, our younger generation, like even my children and the generation beneath us, they're gonna have a better life because
of the struggles we're going through right now. Absolutely.
We hope. We can hope. Absolutely, we can hope.
I see a lot of people right now being like, oh, when are we going to get back to normal? And I'm like, we're not. You realize that we're not going back to normal. That's not happening. Like these are growing pains to get us to that next level. This is a really impactful time in human history, I think. And to your point, there's a lot of stuff that needed to change, that we just needed that, kind of a spark to make
earth shattering.
Yeah, I mean, we needed to have the bottom drop out of us to be able to look at it, and so one of the things that I'm really committing myself to is getting a hybrid vehicle, because we're seeing climate change, and I'm seeing how climate change is affecting whiskey already. So it's really interesting how, we kind of just needed that jolt to go, oh, these things that we've been talking about theoretically, like they're right now, they're happening right now, and we need to address them right now.
Yeah, yep. You know what I think we should address?
A cocktail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So I'm here, and I have this deliciousness in front of me, and I'm gonna give this recipe to everybody how to make apricot syrup in our tips and tricks. So you can go on Instagram and you can learn how to make it. But here's one of my favorite simple cocktails to do. All it requires is crushed ice, whiskey, and your apricot syrup, and then like little pieces of apricot, so you don't want to like do it all the way. And I'm gonna give you your choice. Maggie, do you want few straight bourbon whiskey, or do you want the Motor City few?
Oh, you know what? I haven't had the Motor City few.
It's yum. You want me to do that one?
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
So if you're at home, this is basically, the whiskey is personal. You use in this recipe what you like. But what the most important thing about using the whiskey in this recipe is the way you build this cocktail and how much you use. I am a big fan of 2 ounces and a quarter when you're making simple drinks that require lots of crushed ice. So what we're gonna do is, first thing we're gonna do is take 2 of the apricots or 2 heaping bar spoons of the actual apricot itself, because it's gonna sit in the bottom of your glass, and it's like the best part because you get to the bottom, and then you like take this little bite of this whiskey and icy deliciousness, and it's my favorite. And we're gonna use half an ounce of the apricot syrup. If you like it sweeter, 3/4 of an ounce. If you like it less sweet, 1/4 of an ounce. It is personal to you, but it is just delicious, and it's like one of my favorite things. So now we're gonna put in 2¼ ounces of the Motor City. And if you haven't had it yet, and you know if it's not available in your market, or you're just a diehard Maker's Mark fan, or whatever you like, use what you like. Use what you like. That's what it's number one in all the cocktails. So you're gonna take this, now you have in the bottom, this apricot and your whiskey. You're gonna give it a little bit of stir. We are gonna give it a love pinch of roasted cinnamon, which you could get in your baking aisle. You wanna do it yourself? I think that's even better. But, I never tell anybody what you have to do. Now I'm gonna take a little taste because I just had to. And we're gonna take our crushed ice and we're just gonna fill up our glass. And it's so simple that, your 12-year-old could do it for you. No, you should not have your children mix your cocktails. It's just a simple, summery, delicious stone fruit drink. And I think whiskey and stone fruit are a match made in heaven. If you don't know what I'm talking about, stone fruits are any fruits that have the pit inside of it, where it's one big pit. And you could just use it and how does this not look good?
Oh, that's gorgeous.
It's just delicious. And you just, little sips and ice, little iceberg, and, it's reminiscent of, summertime. I don't know. So cheers.
Cheers.
Maggie, this is when you should have been in person. We should have figured out when your trip was here.
November. I'm there every November.
I will save syrup for you, and I will make
Pop
this in
one
person.
in the freezer for me.
I will literally, I have syrup all the time at Buffalo and Bergen, so I will save some to make sure that you can get a taste of it.
Awesome. I'm so jealous of those cocktails. They look amazing.
And they're in time period appropriate glasses.
They are, which makes them taste so much better, right?
It really does.
The glassware really makes a difference, I think.
Oh, so pretty. It's the full experience.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's the full experience.
I'm enough of a whiskey snob that if I go someplace and I order a whiskey, I ask them, do you have a Glencairn glass?
Oh, you are.
And if they say no, I say, can I have it in a white wine glass? And they're like, you want your whiskey in a white wine glass? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
What would you serve it to me in otherwise? A shot glass? And I'm like, no, I'll have it in a white wine glass, thanks.
That's amazing. Will you tell our listeners why?
So when you're fully appreciating whiskey, you want to have a taper to the bowl of the glass that you are drinking out of. So there should be a bowl at the bottom, and then it should taper inward at the top. And what that does is it concentrates the aromas so that you can smell before you taste, and that enhances the experience, because a lot of times you will get different characteristics on the nose than you will on the palate or the finish or whatever.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
This drink, what I really love about this drink, Jean, is I love that the apricots come a little bit later, because as it's sitting there starting to melt, they're coming up, and I get a little bit of that cinnamon on the top. This is really nice.
You still taste the whiskey.
Oh no, absolutely. But
Yeah.
it changes. It's kind of like you and I. It starts one way, ends another, has a little spice that surprises you.
If somebody asked me one stone fruit I could use forever in all my cocktails, and I could never use peaches or plums or blah, blah again, it would be apricot. It's so versatile. Because when you dry it, it tastes one way. When it's fresh, it tastes one way. When it's underripe, it tastes another way.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
And it actually is so versatile when it comes to dark spirits like rum, whiskey, just things that need wine, whatever.
Yeah.
Not even dark spirit. It's I don't know. Apricot's my spirit.
Okay, so speaking of your spirit food,
Are we ready?
Before we do, we gotta do our housekeeping.
Okay.
Oh, almost forgot.
Yeah.
Chew.
If you want this recipe or how to get to Maggie and all of the wonderful links that she just, mentioned in part 1 and part 2 of this episode, you're gonna go to designateddrinker.show, and I'll slow down and say that much slower. designateddrinker.show for my recipes and why I love apricots so much, and I'll have an entire dissertation on it.
not true. But what will be there is the recipe, the recipes, the tips and tricks, and like Gina said, the links to the Spirits United you mentioned, right? We're going to make sure we have that in there. And then I'd love for them to definitely, we're going to put some on how you get to Maggie's, which we barely touched on, American Whiskey, the magazine she works on and is the content editor. And here I'll get to read all of her magical words.
Is it an online magazine or sent to you magazine?
Both.
And how do I not know that?
So it's AmericanWhiskeyMag.com. You can go there and you can read some of the articles. There are different articles in the print magazine. So you can see the print magazine behind me on the wall. That's the current issue.
Yep. I've seen that before.
And so I do a lot of content for the print issue, but I also do a lot of content for the website. And they can be, sometimes we put magazine stuff on the website, but most of the time the magazine is completely separate from the website. So you really kind of have to check out both. AmericanWhiskeyMag.com. You can get a subscription to the print magazine and check out the latest stories on there.
Do you put cocktail recipes on?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got cocktail recipes on the. I also do a cocktail column in the magazine, and so the one that I'm working on right now that I'm turning in next week is about the Sazerac cocktail. I interviewed Matt Ray from the Sazerac House in New Orleans, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Sazerac's an amazing cocktail.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely one of the mother cocktails.
Absolutely.
Because then it lends itself so far into our cocktail history. I would love to just do we should just do that once, just to do all the mother cocktails.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be lots of fun.
Yeah, we'll bring Maggie back and do that.
Yeah.
All right, Maggie, I have one question. This is how we know if you listen to our podcast or not.
Okay.
I hope that you're ready. All right, so being that you're from Kentucky, born and raised, I believe that was correct, right? That's what you said?
Yes.
Where you grew up?
Yep.
Right. So we touched on it, and you did say the American bison is a native animal there, so maybe that would be your spirit animal, where it's crossing back and forth, or the, buffalo crossing back and forth, and you really love the, the grandeur of it, and you really identify with the peacefulness of the animal as well. If you could identify yourself as one spirit ingredient, whether it's for food or for beverage, what would that ingredient be and why?
I feel like I have to say bourbon because it's so versatile and you can use it in baked goods, you can use it in cocktails, you can use it in recipes. I think bourbon is a lot more versatile than people think.
I love it.
I use it in ribs. I have used it in baked beans. I've used it in cookies.
Yeah.
Now, how does bourbon describe your personality? Are you saying that you're just versatile?
Sweet and versatile. And a little spicy.
I love it.
There you go.
And strong. And
There you go.
There you go.
I love that.
Cheers to you, Maggie.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
The Designated Drinker Show is produced by Missing Link, a podcast media company that is dedicated to connecting people to intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Also in the Missing Link lineup of podcasts is Rodger That, a podcast dedicated to guiding you through the haze of dementia, led by skilled caregivers Bobbi and Mike Carducci. Now, if you're looking for a whole new way to enjoy the theater, check out Between Acts, an immersive audio theater podcast experience. Each episode takes you on a spellbinding journey through the works of newfound playwrights, from dramas to comedies and everything in between. Find Missing Link's League of Podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Please don't forget to subscribe, download, and review the shows. Your review helps our shows reach new audiences. To find out more about Missing Link, visit missinglink.company. That's missinglink.company.